Mortgage interest rates going down isn't all good news. Recently, there's been a pretty big shakeup in the world of mortgages. Now, since October, the cost of getting a mortgage has been getting exceptionally lower by about 1.3%. This is obviously great because it makes owning a home more affordable for people, but we should be careful and not just assume things will stay this way. There are two big questions we are all asking. Will these lower mortgage costs keep going down in 2024? And what does this mean for the housing market for people buying and selling homes? What's up, guys? My name is McKeown, and I'm a licensed real estate agent in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as well as the Orlando, Florida market. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing what will happen to the housing markets if rates continue to drop. But before we get into today's video, if you guys are finding the content on this channel useful, please give us a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to always be notified when I release another video. Now let's dive a little deeper into what might happen with mortgage rates in the future. Just because rates have been dropping doesn't mean they'll continue to do so. The Federal Reserve, or the Fed for short, which plays a big role in our economy. Now, they may lower rates in 2024, but we can't be absolutely sure. Now, ironically enough, this afternoon, January 31st, we're going to find out from Jerome Powell, the individual that speaks on behalf of the Fed, whether or not we're going to see potential rate cuts sooner or later this year. Now, what the Fed does is they essentially watch the economy closely and change their plans depending on how things are going with the economy. Now, the recent drop in mortgage rates is partially because people expect the Fed to make these changes or make rate cuts. But it's important to remember that the Fed doesn't directly control mortgage rates. Those are more closely linked with the bond market. Now, if mortgage rates keep falling, it'll have a big impact on the housing market, affecting both demand and supply. Generally, when mortgage rates are lower, more people are interested in purchasing homes. We've seen evidence of this obviously over the last couple years, an increase of people applying for mortgages, especially as rates continue to fall. And once again, just the number of applicants and individuals that have applied for a mortgage loan since the end of October, which was kind of the peak of mortgage rates, leading all the way up to today at the end of January, has seen a substantial increase, especially since the turning of 2024. Now, the effect on supply, the number of houses for sale, is a little bit more complex. Now, the housing market is unique because many people who are selling their homes are also looking to buy homes. So what affects buyers also actually affects sellers. Higher mortgage costs in 2022 led to fewer people actually wanting to buy or sell homes. So the big question for 2024 is this: if mortgage rates go down, will we see more houses on the market? Now, my personal experience, about 80 to 85% of my business is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area alone. I've been here since 2017, and a majority of my market understanding and experience, again, is locally here. I do service the Orlando, Florida market, which is kind of similar in some ways to the DFW market, but only about 10% of my business is there. So when I do talk about my experience as a local realtor and investor, I'm mostly talking about the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. But I'll tell you right now, my Q4 of 2023 was the slowest quarter ever since I got licensed in the summer of 2017. Now, that doesn't mean that my business was non-existent. It was just slow compared to essentially any other quarter that I have worked. Now, just to give you guys some quick numbers, I closed about 9 transactions in Q4 of 2023. To compare that to just another month in 2023, May alone, I was able to close 9 transactions. So just to give you an idea there, it was definitely a little bit slower of a quarter than I'm used to. Now, a lot of this can be contributed just with the fact that Q4 is traditionally a much slower quarter, really, than any other quarter of the year. Once the new year hits, holidays are over. A lot of those buyers that were kind of holding off and don't want to necessarily purchase over the holidays, or even those sellers that didn't really want to sell over the holiday, are actually coming back out now in January when they weren't necessarily interested in November or December. But then you also couple it with incredibly high interest rates, even though they started to kind of fall towards the end of October. Q4 plus extremely high interest rates is going to make a pretty slow quarter for any real estate agent, let alone myself in DFW. So once again, definitely a slow Q4 for 2023, but moving into 2024, and now being a month into the year, I definitely have a positive outlook for the housing market, not just locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but as a whole across the United States moving forward in 2024. Now, just a month into 2024, there's been a slight increase of new houses being listed for sale. However, it's still a bit early to say for sure whether or not this is going to continue to happen over the course of the year. Now, some studies suggest that if mortgage rates continue to fall maybe to about 5 or 5.2%, it could encourage a lot of homeowners to sell their properties. But there's also some doubt about whether or not rates will actually reach these levels in 2024. It seems more likely that rates will stabilize at a slightly higher level. Now, me personally, I really hope they do, because I have 2 properties that are at 7.125% and nearly 8%. The one at 8%, I'm paying $6,300 a month in interest. So please, whoever has control of these interest rates, just let's get back down to 3 or 4. But again, all jokes aside here, a lot of people are not predicting rates to fall as low as 5%, as great as that may seem, especially for folks such as myself that have a couple higher interest rates that need to get refinanced. It's likely not going to happen in 2024. But that doesn't mean that rates won't fall at all. Now, with more people looking to buy homes, the competition in the housing market could certainly get intense. I think we all remember that back maybe a year and a half ago. Now, if there aren't enough homes for sale, we might see home prices shoot up like before, similar to kind of what happened during 2020 all the way to middle of 2022. However, if the lower rates lead to more housing being put up for sale, balancing out the increase in buyers, then the market may seem a little bit more stable and modest price changes may occur rather than a rapid increase in which what we've saw in the past. Now, this would result in a far less chaotic national housing market, though different areas could certainly experience varied trends. The most likely scenario, though, seems to be a balanced increase in both buyers and houses for sale, leading to more of a stable market. However, there's still a chance of a significant increase in home prices on a national level if the number of buyers greatly outpaces the available homes. Now, what the Fed will do is they'll essentially come out at the end of the month and determine whether or not they're going to do essentially what we call a rate hike, which we haven't seen for a while. They're either going to keep the rates the same or they're going to do a rate cut. Now, what Jerome Powell has essentially said is in 2024, rate cuts are all but a certainty, especially with where the economy is headed and the last couple Fed meetings keeping the rates the same rather than continuing to increase them puts 2024 and rate cuts definitely seeming like a larger and larger possibility as we continue to go into 2024. Now, the Fed meeting this afternoon is certainly something you guys need to pay attention to. They are not expected to do a rate cut as soon as just 1 month into 2024, but you can definitely get an idea, hopefully after today's meeting, whether or not those rate cuts are going to come sooner or later. And if they do come sooner, then that means we're likely going to have rate cuts during a spring market, which is going to bring more sellers out onto the market, even more than most typical sellers are selling already in the spring market, which traditionally, if you get sellers putting their houses on the market, they also need to purchase. So those really offset one another for the most part. And then you get a new influx of buyers because rates have gotten down to a point that they're now affordable. Those buyers aren't going to necessarily have enough homes to pick and choose from because the sellers are essentially selling one house and taking a house, which is offsetting. Now you've got all these new buyers coming into the spring market with lower interest rates. And where are these houses going to come out of unless we're talking solely new construction, which potentially can cause that shakeup in the real estate housing market, especially if we continue to see multiple rate cuts over 2024. So what's your take? Do you think the housing market will see big changes if mortgage rates continue to fall, or are we heading towards more of a steady and predictable real estate market? I would love to know your feedback and what you think is going to happen over the course of 2024. Now, depending on what the Fed meeting turns out this afternoon, as well as what Jerome Powell says about potential rate cuts, I'm definitely going to make a follow-up video, likely next week, to this particular video alone. So make sure to stay tuned for that and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help. And stay tuned for the next video.